everyone. Today I will be doing a Gavin Newsom versus JD Vance realistic 2028 scenario because I did make a video like yesterday or 2 days, I think, and it was not realistic at all. It was kind of rage bait. Yeah, right here, the Vance slide one. I don't think JD Vance would actually get 316 electoral votes. This was mainly a response to the LA riots and how I feel most of the country has disapproved of the LA riots and also kind of disapproves of how Gavin Newsom has been handling the LA riots. But really, I want to make a actual realistic 2028 Gavin Newsom versus JD Vance scenario. I also want to talk about how the LA riots will affect the 2028 election. And also, this is my first video with a new mic. So please tell me if the microphone quality is better than normal. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to get started with the safe states for Gavin Newsom, and I have him picking Cory Booker as his VP. Both pretty moderate politicians. I do think Cory Booker could definitely help Gavin Newsom with more of the Bernie side of the party. I feel Cory Booker's good at kind of having a nice balance in the Democratic Party. Colorado will be safe, Illinois safe, and any other safe Democratic states? No, I don't think so. Then we have JD Vance taking mostly a good amount. I have been picking Marco Rubio as his VP. That helps Florida go safe to JD. And of course, JD is from Ohio, used to be a senator from Ohio. So I have Ohio also going safe. Although in this scenario, Texas will not be safe for JD Vance. Alaska and that looks about right. So here's all the safe states I have for both candidates. We have Gavin Newsom and Cory Booker standing at 179 electoral votes to JD and Marco Rubio's 178 electoral votes. Now let's move on to the more likely states. Texas will be likely. I have it going to JD Vance and Marco Rubio by around 9%. I also have New Jersey going likely. I think it will shift back a little bit Democratic. I think going to the Democrats by around 8%, 7%, somewhere around there. I also have New Mexico going to the Democrats by around 7 and 8%, and same with Virginia. I do think JD and Marco Rubio will be able to could take Arizona up to 7%. But of course, even in a up Republican year, Trump won it by 6%. I don't know. And Arizona does have a Democratic governor and a Democratic senator. So with those, actually they have two Democratic senators and a Democratic governor. So really, Republicans only do good in Arizona for the general election. And also having two senators and a governor that can campaign for Gavin Newsom and Cory Booker even whenever they're not in Arizona really does a boost. So I really only think JD Vance and Marco Rubio could win Arizona by around 3%. I also think they'll win North Carolina by around 3%, same margin. I think Gavin Newsom and Cory Booker could win New Hampshire by up to 5%, but they'll probably win it around like 4.5%. Same with this district of Maine. I think Minnesota will probably go to Cory and Gavin by around probably by around 5%, somewhere around there. Because of course, Tim Walz really did help Kamala Harris in Minnesota. But also, it was a Republican year, not a Democratic year, so you could make the argument Minnesota actually goes to Gavin Newsom and Cory Booker by around 6%. But I'm just going to have it around 5%. I do think, I think Marco Rubio and JD Vance could take Nevada by around 2%. Because Trump won it by around 3%. I do think Nevada could be shifting to the right over these next 4 years. Georgia could really go either way. I see a lot of people that think it's shifting to the right, a lot of people that think it's going to be shifting to the left. So we'll talk about it near the end. I do think Democrats take this district of Nebraska by around 5%, somewhere around there. Of course, okay. Now Pennsylvania, I didn't think about it. Gavin Newsom might actually pick Josh Shapiro as his VP in 2028 if Gavin Newsom does win the Democratic primaries, just to basically lock down Pennsylvania. But Pennsylvania really does come down to Josh Shapiro. Of course, if Josh Shapiro ends up winning the Democratic primaries, I do think Pennsylvania is easily going Democratic. But if Josh Shapiro's not on the ticket, I do think Pennsylvania will continue to shift to the right a little bit. And also, Gavin Newsom's not the most popular Democratic politician. If you know what I mean, Gavin Newsom just kind of looks like old money politics. So I could definitely see Pennsylvania going to J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio. But you know what? I think I'm going to change something. I think it would be smarter for Gavin to pick Josh Shapiro. Oh, Josh Shapiro instead of Cory Booker in this scenario. And with that, they do end up winning Pennsylvania by around 2%, I would say. And then also Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. They haven't voted differently from each other since the 1988 election, I believe, or 1992 election, one of those elections. So it's been a long time since these three states haven't voted for the same party. I do think the Republicans are making gains in Michigan, and I could see J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio winning it. Although Wisconsin did vote more Democratic than Michigan in the 2024 election. So I do think Wisconsin will be going to Gavin Newsom and Josh Shapiro. And then a lot could happen in Georgia. Georgia is really going to be the Pennsylvania of the 2028 election, I believe. It went to Trump by around 2%. And then even in the 2016, oh no, not 2016, 2020 election, in a very Democratic year, Trump only lost it by around 40,000 votes, I believe. Or, well, what? No, by 10,000 votes. Or close, like 13,000 votes. Very, very Molly Squirrel. And let's even look at the 2016 election map. We see Georgia. We see Trump also won it by around 6% this year. So I do think, but so far I don't know if Trump's having the best term. But I'm going to be assuming Trump's able to get his act together. Because if we go to real clear polls, we see Trump's approval rating. It's definitely better than what it was his last term. It still is in the negatives. Here, look. Let's go to President Trump's job approval. His job approval is negative 3.3 on average, which is definitely better than it was. Yeah, but honestly, I don't know if Trump could get his act together. It really kind of also depends on how much JD Vance separates himself from Trump. Because let's say JD Vance tries to separate himself from Trump. He says, yeah, I know Trump's had some hiccups, but he did all of these great things that people don't give him credit for. Georgia definitely is shifting to the right. I could definitely see Gavin Newsom taking Michigan and then J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio taking Georgia. But honestly, I don't think Gavin Newsom's the right candidate for the Democrats. I think the right candidate for the Democrats would have to be Josh Shapiro. I do think Gavin Newsom could beat someone like Ron DeSantis. I think he would be. I think Gavin Newsom could definitely win debates against Ron DeSantis. I just don't think Gavin Newsom's record as a governor in California will go over well with the majority of the country. And I think J.D. Vance hasn't been a governor, but he's been a senator and vice president. He could he could maybe end up being how Kamala was in 2024. But I definitely do think JD Vance going on these podcasts, like the Theo Vaughn podcast and him going on the Joe Rogan podcast, definitely does help him connect more with the average voter, compared to Kamala Harris basically going on no podcast. But Gavin Newsom does have his own podcast, so there's a lot of arguments for either of these candidates really winning. I could definitely see a scenario where they take Michigan. I also see a scenario where JD Vance is able to win Pennsylvania and Georgia, and that wins him the election. But I think the most likely scenario right now, if Gavin Newsom were to run, is JD Vance taking Georgia and Michigan, giving him the 2028 or winning him the 2028 election. Anyway, tell me your thoughts down in the comments, and also tell me what you think about my new mic. Anyway, peace out.